Who y'all recruiting nation, live from sunny Pensacola, Florida. Chief Totimeh here. Welcome to episode 19 of Uncharted Waters with the one, the only, the people's champ, Admiral James Waters. Today we have three legendary guests with us. We have a prolific leader, a timeless Mustang, who started his career as a cryptologist and rose to the ranks of a full-bird captain. The officer in charge of Navy Recruiting Orientation Unit, Captain Robert Stockton. Next, we have a success multiplier, a goal maker. Swag is what he's known by in the CRF community. We have Master Chief Whalen, who is the chief recruiter of Navy Recruiting Orientation Unit. Last but not least, walking success, a mentor to many, the guide, herself, Master Chief Sarah Drake. Leaders, welcome.
Yeah, welcome. It's great to have you here.
Quite the introduction.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
It's what he's known for.
I've noticed.
Happy you all are here. Happy you all are here. So to kick off episode 19, can we get a little intro starting with you, sir?
Thank you for having me, by the way.
Absolutely.
And I feel that you should have had some kind of ring and ready to rumble because it's time to go. I joined right out of high school, listed as a cryptologist. Did it only for 2 years and then went through ROTC and then maybe was a SWO for a number of years, and then for a dozen years now I've been an HR officer. I've had command and several tours in NCCM domain, and now I'm down here at NORU doing the great work of the recruiting nation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Master Chief?
Thanks. Master Chief Jason Whalen, Navy Orientation Unit, NORU Chief Recruiter. Came in the Navy in 1999. I've been a CRF for nearly 20 years now. This is my 8th recruiting command and my 3rd Chief Recruiter tour, and excited to be here today.
Yeah, we're excited to have you.
Yeah. Master Chief Drake?
Yes, good afternoon, sir, and good afternoon, Recruiting Nation. I'm Master Chief Drake. I'm the N7 Chief Recruiter. Yes, I've been in recruiting for over 10 years now, and I just previously checked on board, and I was the CR of NTAG New England.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Some change in climate.
Just a little bit, a little bit.
So
sir.
Boston and Pensacola,
Yes.
not the same.
And yes, my snow shovel was not in my PCS move.
Very good, very good. Yeah.
Love it. Sir, is it possible you give us an overview of NORU and N7, some of the roles and responsibilities?
Yeah, happy to. And I'll caveat that with present activities and where I think we're going to in the future. N7 is responsible for curriculum development, implementation in different learning modalities. So that by I mean whether or not we take the approach of a PQS answer, a JQR answer, a YouTube answer, a podcast answer, a webcast, or a mobile training team. That's the responsibility of the N7 to continually refine those things and figure out how to best deliver it to ensure that we're keeping our training as fresh as possible. Now, with regards to NORU, they do our typical schoolhouse setting. Everyone thinks NRO. They think the school that the initial 803Rs come through, and they kind of break, don't think about all the other offerings that we have, and that list is quite extensive. So we do offer those throughout the year, and like I said, we do have a lot of mobile training teams that we outsource. So if you think our MORA, our Mobile Officer Recruiting Academy, or if you take a look at our DLCPO, on-site kind of training offerings, it represents the totality of what I think we can bring to bear in not just traditional learning, but how best to communicate to those who are listening.
Yeah, so for the non-recruiters that are watching this, the work that goes on in the schoolhouse is really the center of excellence for Navy recruiting, the art and science of recruiting. So young petty officers coming off of their first tour on a ship or an aircraft squadron or a submarine learn how to recruit. But you also train the career recruiting force, so the CRF Academy, right?
Yes, sir.
As well as these other offerings that you can train the division leading chief petty officers, you train officer recruiters. So it's an extensive portfolio, but really it boils down to Center of Recruiting Excellence.
Yes, sir. And where I would say, so that's current, and where I see forecasting future, I want to also be the center of excellence for Salesforce training. Everything that can be done and should be a part of, the tool belt that we give at every level to the recruiting nation, how they have to operate on day one when they're in the field, what they need to be able to observe in Salesforce, how it's best utilized, how to develop it and plan towards it. In addition, there's focus that continually goes back and forth. I want to take a look at officer recruiting and what we offer and how we offer it, and to bring that more in alignment with today's markets.
Yeah.
And then I also would say that I think there's need to continually review this and bring back the messages from the fleet, from our NTAGs, from our regions, and refresh how we do our work there. But hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really good. Thank you.
Master Chief Drake, with the implementation of NIT, can you speak a little bit about how that's kind of contributed to the overall success?
Yes, great question. There's a number of tools that a recruiter has in their daily tool bag, and what I'm referring to that is your page, your planner, your app log, and what the NIT inspection actually does is helps reinforce those daily tools and actually shows the recruiters, this is just not a nuisance. This is actually a tool that you can use. And how it can actually help you achieve mission. And the NIT inspection really helps reinforce that.
Yeah, so this is an inspection that gets applied to an entire Navy talent acquisition group all at the same time. Yes. The goal being doing this once every couple of years to really look at, kind of the nuts and bolts of the recruiting process to see if we're doing things right. And then enhance where there may be some challenges, right?
That's right, sir. That's right.
Yeah.
And if I could add to that, one of the great benefits of doing it is the NIT is just not inspection. It's a lot of training that's involved in there. It's a real-time, on-time training that we do. Hours and hours and hours, right? So if it was just a matter of doing a checklist and telling something yes or no, that doesn't take much time. This is about ensuring that we spread our best practices across the domain as rapidly as possible. We're capturing that for others to see, and we put that on a portal for others to look at. And what I find it to do is that we will, even if we couldn't get it to all the training in that week, on site during the visit, we actually schedule follow-on trainings, of course with the support of the region, to ensure that we're able to do that as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and we know from other parts of the Navy that a rigorous, standardized, well-scheduled inspection process leads to elevated performance as an organization, right? And that's what you all have brought to the table with the NIT process to really be that fundamental look at recruiting processes. And when you go do these inspections, it's not just the headquarters. It's the headquarters and nearly, if not all, stations within that NIT. That's really impressive that we can hit all of that essentially in one short week.
3 days, sir.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a really short week.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's certainly a lot of travel, and going the bigger areas, the bigger AORs. It's a challenge. A lot of driving.
Yeah.
So, Master Chief, as the chief recruiter for N7, what are some common hits that you find during inspections, as well as how can an NTAG possibly prepare for their inspection?
Great, excellent question. The two common hits that we do see from many NTAGs, the first one would definitely be not following their PATE numbers. Once again, I talk about the tools that you have in your tool bag, right? The PATE is there to help you. The PATE knows how many appointments are required for one new contract, how many interviews are required for one new contract, how many QIs are required for a new contract. But what we see is that we tend to ignore the PATE and do our own thing, and that's happening a lot. A lot of copy and paste activity numbers, unfortunately, that happens a lot, and unfortunately, a lot of recruiters don't really understand what activity they are on for the day. In addition to that, I would say that another common hit is no adjustments for missed prospecting evolutions. As we know, we miss a prospecting evolution, we're never going to get that time back. We're never going to get that back. And prospecting is so valuable in Navy recruiting. For example, if a recruiter has to go out to do a home visit, but they had a high school presentation that was planned, and they go do the home visit, when are we making up that high school presentation?
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of times the adjustments are not being made.
Yeah. So Master Chief Whalen, when you hear that coming from the field, how does the schoolhouse respond to that? Like, how do you make sure that gets folded into what our recruiters and others, the CRF Academy and others are getting?
Yeah, I think, Admiral, the most important thing is teaching about time management and systems, right? It's all about figuring out ways that you can gain efficiency to do your job and that work-life balance. The things that we teach at NRO during the course are about systems. It's about you mentioned the PATE app log
Yes.
and planner, and figuring out the best way to incorporate those systems in a day-to-day basis to give you the time to allow you to do that, and having leadership there to help you with priorities too, especially as a newer recruiter. You kind of need that adjustment sometimes.
Yeah. So you're taking those things that the NIT is coming back with and folding those into the curriculum
Yeah,
that you're,
yes, sir.
that you're teaching.
That's been one of the greatest things about being able to get out in the field, is to see what's actually happening out there, talking to the recruiters and hearing from you specifically, what is it that's hurting your heads out there? What are you having struggles with? Or, hey, what great ideas do you have? Some of the most amazing ideas and initiatives and things that we've had come from that E5, E6 recruiter out in the field.
Yes.
And a lot of times they are reluctant to talk about those things, but being able to go out there, boots on ground, and have those conversations, it's amazing what you learn if you listen.
Yeah, it really is. And then act to change.
Absolutely.
Right?
The biggest
it's good.
part, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Master Chief Whalen, to piggyback on what the Admiral asks, is there any metrics that kind of assesses the long-term successes of recruiters?
Metrics to measure success. I'd say the biggest metric is NRC success, the NRC metric, right? We're in a good situation right now. We've made goal consistently for the last several months, and things are looking pretty good, right? So overall, one team, one fight. We look at that as a whole, right? That being a big metric. Some of the other metrics we use to measure coming from the recruiters in the field, and we have something called the Master Chief Carrying Award, which you actually announced on one of your podcasts.
Yeah,
before.
absolutely.
Great opportunity to hear back from some of the most successful recruiters we've had out in the field, right? They come back to NORU, they spend a day talking to fellow students and provide us feedback, provide leadership feedback. Hey, what's working out there? Or what's hurting your heads? And what did we do right at NRO, at NORU? And what do we need to work on? What do we need to get better at? And to hear from those recruiters, it's invaluable. It truly is. The last metric that something I'm very proud of, and I didn't even know happened before I got to NORU, and that's the recruiter mentorship program. And the instructors do an amazing job. I have some of the best instructors. I put them up against anybody in the Navy. But it's the part that people don't see. It's the after they graduate, in the chat groups they have, and the consistent mentorship that they provide recruiters. You know, we may not work sometimes as late hours as those folks in the field DPR, and till later hours, but the instructors are taking phone calls and text messages in these groups with prior students and answering questions and continually mentor them and providing that feedback, which is important to us.
Yeah, it's really important to note, because recruiting is just hard, right? I mean, you're getting 100 no's to get one contract, right? And I think the willingness to continue to support recruiters in the field, that really is a strong statement about the value and the commitment of the team at NORU.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
I laugh because I just onboarded a civilian who was a prior CR who still was getting phone calls from the field on best practices. And I go, how in the world are you still answering that phone call? Because eventually, you're a civilian, you're wearing, a khaki collared shirt, no longer in the uniform. But it's that love, right, from the career recruiting force that you're not extinguishing with just a transition to something else. It's a passion and it's a love, and it's very clear to see.
Yeah. So, Captain Stockton, I want to speak briefly about a new initiative that I know is near and dear to your heart, the Estop. Can you kind of speak a little bit about what it fully entails?
Yeah, and I'll put it in, I guess, two different categories. One part of it is providing the best possible training for our newest recruiters, and then the other, I will say, taking the best possible care of our recruiting force. I have an experience and I have baggage from my time at PERS, and I would never tolerate having a UDA, a PCS move, within 6 months. I just wouldn't do it. It was unconscionable to me to do that to an individual who has human needs. And those human needs, they can't happen. If you don't know where you're going to, it's really hard to take care of your family. It's really hard to enroll your kids in school. It's really hard to take leave. It's really hard to do all these things if you don't know where you're going to. And there are reasons why that was and why it happened. But at the end of the day, that can't be the answer. At the end of the day, it has to be known so they can take care of the human part of being a sailor. And then I would also say and probably equally as important, is the best value trainer. We have training. We have seen through our CANREC folks that have come through our schoolhouse, they're much better prepared to be a student. They ask the right questions because they have skin in the game already.
Yeah, because they had that Estop at their recruiting station before they got to NORU,
Yes,
right? And so that is a change from what we have historically done, where the orders just have NORU in there, and a lot of times the sailor would go to NORU first and then take leave and do other things. They haven't been to where they're going. And unfortunately, we've had cases where people have left their previous command not having their ultimate duty activity, which in recruiting, for those that are not part of recruiting, it has been a separate letter, is now going to be part of the orders.
Yes, and so what it's going to give the opportunity now to those who are on the new system, an opportunity to go to their assignment area, ensure they can take their leave as they need to, set up a household, get your account set up, get your AOR assigned to you, and then at that point, whatever that point is, it doesn't have to be 60 days. It can be something smaller than that. If you're by yourself, maybe it's shorter than that. But then you come to NORU, and no kidding, now you have your area of responsibility, and we can help you design and plan a prospecting area that is the best possible utilization of your time. And then you'll also, from your time of an ISOP, gain the vernacular, which is different every other place in the Navy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a whole new language. As the viewers of this podcast will probably attest, because we've used a few acronyms today, but the recruiters in the field are pretty familiar with that. So.
Yeah. Master Chief Whalen, have you noticed any challenges in areas for new recruiters, either during the time at NORU or possibly when they just leave NORU?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of challenges. We've all seen them. still face them every day, right? And before I was NORU, being the prior N7 chief recruiter too, I saw it out in the field as well as feedback from students and instructors and things that are happening. So if I were to narrow it down to just a few, I'd say I previously mentioned time management and work-life balance always being, I think, the biggest thing that a lot of new recruiters struggle with. I mean, heck, to be honest, 20 years in the business, I still struggle with that myself sometimes, I think. And that's where we really try to drive home the utilization of systems, as I talked about, and where they can gain efficiencies and trying to find the best possible way to do things. Captain mentioned it, Salesforce. Salesforce is another area that's a challenge for new recruiters out there. And looking at some exciting things that we're going to do to add to revisions in NORU that actually give them more time in a real-life environment in Salesforce, what we call now is the sandbox, which is kind of a made-up environment that they can't get in there and break anything, or they don't have real territories, but it still provides a simulated area. I'd say the last thing that a lot of recruiters find to be challenging is the prospecting part, is the actually getting out, talking to 17-year-old young men and women. It's just different, right? They come from CB battalions and engineering departments and squadrons, and the way that you have to speak to 17-year-old high school students and parents and key influencers is quite different than the language you may use in the engineering shop, right? So, and not only that, just the selling aspect of it. It's new. It's new for a lot of them, and getting out there and doing that. And I really think some of the initiatives we're bringing to NORU, and we've actually started right now, our live prospecting labs that we've been doing, the initiative, and getting them in that environment, real life, practice like you play.
Yeah, and that ties back to the Estop thing we talked about. So as they flow in, they spend time at their station, they get assigned their territory. So when they show up with you, they can prospect in their own zip code, their own territory, and actually establish, hot leads as they're rolling in. I mean, I imagine you're probably going to have some students that actually are able to, set appointments while they're at NORU, which will be pretty amazing.
Yes, sir. I'm super excited about that. Being able to generate real activity while training, what better training environment can we have than that?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So, Master Chief Drake, with the ever so evolving Navy, are there any new implementations? Because sailors are always looking for what's next.
They sure are. Yes. Great. There's a lot of new things that we've been working on and new initiatives. The first one that I'm super excited about is the DLCPO mobile course. And what the DLCPO mobile course is actually will come to you. We'll come to your NTAG, so that makes it a little easier. And we'll actually train your DLCPOs on important matters that involve DLCPOs. We have a standard list of topics, but what I like to do is prior to execution of the course, I like to reach out to the NTAG and ask, what's important to you for us to also teach your sailors in the NTAG. Yeah. So that way it's also a course that's tailored specific to that NTAG, because every NTAG is different. In addition to the DLCPO mobile course, we also have an N7 webinar. We do that N7 webinar on the Friday of the division training day that the NTAGs have. So that way, you can make that part of your division training day. Our training topics are specific to some of the emergent items that we do see from our NIT inspections, or some of the emergent items that are coming across from the nation. For example, our last N7 webinar, we did that on the new NRC, the NSO NSW prospecting plan. And then our next one that's coming up for our September webinar is going to be on the nuclear propulsion prospecting plan as well. Yes, so some really good stuff there.
That's really good.
But and in case you do miss our webinars, we do record them. And we have them on file on our N7 SharePoint. Just go under webinars, and that's a great tool, because if you want to do some training within your NTAG or divisions at a different time, or just on one of our topics, you can go ahead and pull them up and show those videos.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, so which is great. We also offer the MORA. Okay, the MORA is the Medical Officer Recruiting Academy, and we also for that one we come to you as well, and that is specific to officer recruiting. So we teach officer recruiters how to prospect, what to do on a day-to-day basis, really just how to prospect and utilization of those systems. So and it's great because we're right there in your AOR, right in there, so we can go ahead and start helping you with those prospecting evolutions, building those COIs. And that's some of the initiatives that we have been working on, in addition to the RFTs, the request for trainings that my captain had previously talked about. So if your NTAG ever wants any private one-on-one training, a ride-along from someone that's, a different perspective outside the NTAG, my team can also support that as well for that. So
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and just one clarification. We took the Medical Officer Recruiting Academy and we morphed it into the Mobile Officer Recruiting.
Yes.
So it does encompass more than just medical now.
New block.
Yeah. So for
Yeah.
us,
yes, everything.
I find that if we to focus on those difficult things in terms of identifying and recruiting to, think new POC, think medical.
Yeah.
We find along the way all the others,
Yeah.
and that's no slight to anyone. It's just if you go after the hard things in life, the other things seem to come that way.
Yeah, these are all really great initiatives. I want to just hone in real quick on the division leading chief petty officer training that you mentioned. I just highlight for the recruiters out there the value that I see in giving that training, feeding into the knowledge and performance of those DLCPOs, because they have such a critical role in recruiting, right? The 803R recruiters out there prospecting, building trust-based relationships, closing, their recruiter in charge, kind of managing that at a station. But that DLCPO having Salesforce analytics
Yes.
and really looking at where are we being effective, where are we not. What recruiters should think about with respect to their DLCPO, that is the guidance system for our weapons system, right? It's the director. And so the value proposition for recruiters is recruiters entering the data about what they're doing feeds that DLCPO to be able to make good decisions and provide good guidance back to the recruiter, right?
Yes.
And you're providing the training on how best to do that with the Salesforce tool as well as other, fundamental recruiting techniques.
That's right, sir.
Yeah, that's great.
And what I love about it is the standardization of that, right?
Yeah.
So it's not so much different across whatever region or area. It really is, the opportunity kind of level set, understanding there will be variances from wherever you go to, but it is that opportunity
Yeah.
to continue to do that.
But I'm
No,
sorry.
go ahead.
I was going to say we mentioned the word no quite a bit, right? No is just an acronym because you get enough of them, it's going to mean Navy opportunities. That's what it's
Here we
about.
go.
There you go.
There
Yeah.
he teaches it right there. Hey, so as we wrap up, I just want to say thanks for joining this episode of the podcast. It's been fantastic to have the leadership of our Recruiting Center of Excellence here and to be able to just talk to recruiters a little bit about what goes on, what's been changing. All the recruiters have been through NORU one way or another, but things change, and the highlights of the inspection were really good. So thanks for your perspectives today.
Booyah.
Thanks
Booyah.
for having us.
Recruiting Nation, thank you for tuning in to episode 19 of Uncharted Waters with the one, the only, the people's champ, Admiral James Waters. Chief Totimeh, out.